Sega have been coming out swinging. They're taking us back to the good old days by reigniting the rivalry with Nintendo, which I must say, very appropriately timed given most of Nintendo news these days. And they've been doing so with Sonic Racing Crossworld, the new kart racer by the Sonic team. Their entire marketing campaign focused on how they are taking on Nintendo's Mario Kart by offering a bunch of things that they don't, including crossplay, including, easily accessible kart racers on PC, including the return of true speed and all of these things. And they've had a lot of bark, but do they have the bite to back it up? Well, it's interesting because I think most people agree that Mario Kart World has some missteps, and I've put quite a lot of time into Mario Kart World. I've already reviewed it on the channel, and I got my hands on a review copy, thanks to Sega, for Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and I've come away with a lot of opinions. And since Sega themselves are inviting so many comparisons to Mario Kart World, we are going to be referencing that game throughout, but it's not the type of comparison you might expect. Because long story short, Sonic Racing Crossworlds feels much more like an arcade racer. And when I say that, I mean one that you would play at an arcade. The game would actually fit really well in an arcade. It's fast, frenetic, and something in the overall handling reminds me of some of the best games I've ever played. Things like Outrun 2006 was one of my favorite arcade racers ever. And Sonic Racing Crossworlds is in many ways just a dream game for people who like that sort of arcade action, that sort of speed in their games. But it's also very smart, way more than I expected it to be. Sonic Racing Crossworlds feels in many ways like a sequel to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, as much as it does a sequel to previous games in the series like Sonic and Sega Transformed. It feels like Mario Kart, but turned up to 11 in the intensity, the speed, how locked in you have to be, and just how much you have to be zoned in to the game in order to really perform well with the amount of chaos that's going on at all times. And for me to say that I currently prefer to play Sonic Racing Crossworlds than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a huge compliment. But that's because I love pretty much every single track in this game. I love the Crossworlds, something we'll talk about more later. And I really, really like how clever they are with some of the course design around their mechanics, including the speed rings in general, as well as the items and mostly the gadgets, which bring a whole new level of customization, basically the ability to bring in loadouts that can dramatically change the way that you tackle each race and define your strategy better, or mitigate a lot of the more frustrating aspects of kart racers depending on who you are. And it's just really well done. Does that mean it's better than Mario Kart World? Well, what it really means is that they are very different games with very different philosophies, which also means there's quite a lot to talk about here. And before we get into it, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's great to see you. You are looking fantastic. Remember that if you like the video at any point, hit the like button. Helps the video spread throughout the YouTube algorithm. And if you like the way I do news, reviews, and overall coverage of the games industry, consider subscribing. Maybe by the end of the video, I'll have you convinced. There's a lot to talk about with Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Let's get into it. Now look, I said it during the intro, I don't normally compare games too much in my reviews, but in this case, it is Sega themselves that are openly inviting that conversation with their entire marketing campaign around Sonic. And the one thing you should know is that this isn't a Mario Kart World situation. If what you're looking for is a traditional lap-based kart racer that goes very, very fast and also offers a degree of customization that really pushes the genre forward in many different ways, Sonic Racing Crossworlds has you covered. But if you're looking for overall attention to detail, the quality, the Nintendo shine of things, Sonic Racing Crossworlds can be just a bit rough around the edges. And I want to start there because I think it really shows what the philosophies are. With Nintendo's move to an open world also came the fact that even more so than before, every little detail in Mario Kart World has been polished to a sheen that is rarely seen. It's the type of game where you feel like every texture was looked at 15 times over because of course now people can stop at any point anywhere and take a screenshot of the game and it's gotta look perfect. On the flip side, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds has some pretty muddy textures here and there. It can look very unimpressive depending on what track you're racing on, but that's because it has never been designed for you to stop and take pictures. It has been designed for you to go as fast as possible through these things, and that's when the game looks good, when you're rushing down at 300 miles per hour. Where a game like Mario Kart World, at least to me, feels incredibly uneven. From incredibly fun new innovations into the series like grinding and wall riding that bring just a ton of tech into a lot of the game and the tracks, it also has some of the worst low points in the entirety of the Mario Kart series. You're going from some of the segments of track that feel the most fun ever to traverse as you're expressing yourself with those grinds and those wall rides into long stretches of straight road that seem designed for you to admire the backgrounds that they created. Meaning that a lot of the time that you play Mario Kart World, it kind of feels like a bit of a roller coaster. Very high highs and a lot of lows. Where Sonic Racing Cross Worlds feels like a pretty decent high, maybe not the same highs as Mario Kart World's best tracks that really use everything that game has, but across the board, pretty much through every single track in the game, just a continuous blast. And to me, the evenness of that experience, especially for a multiplayer setting, is very appreciated. But that doesn't mean that Cross Worlds doesn't come with its own innovations, specifically the Cross Worlds. The base game comes with 24 different tracks, but also 15 unique cross-world tracks, which are essentially second laps in every single race that go to unique, randomized different tracks. Which means that it doesn't matter what race you're doing, the second lap will always take you to one of these cross worlds, and you don't know which one you're going to get because the person who's in first when you reach the second lap chooses between one that you can see or a completely random one from the pool of 15. This adds some unpredictability to every single race that when you combine with having to know all of these tracks and what possible second lap you get, and the chaos of all the items and something we're going to talk about real soon, the gadgets involved, means that it's a game that if you like racing online, it's really easy to slip into just one more race over and over and over again. Because as I said up at the start, this is a very, very fast game. This is a game where you get to enjoy going at crazy speeds, and that does require quite a lot of effort on the technical side, even at Sonic speed, which is the equivalent of 150cc, which is the speed that you play online, and more so at supersonic speed, being 200cc that isn't currently available for random matchmaking online. This is the type of game where you need to know your turns, where you need to adapt quickly, where you need to have nailed every part of the track to really stay ahead of the pack, and doing so, nailing each one of those turns, drifting every time you get, and adapting to what comes at you feels very rewarding as you just hit crazy speeds that make you feel great, with an overall balance and sense of competitiveness in those matches that is a joy to see, including things like the Ghost, which is, the blue shell from Mario Kart. I felt like very often the online matches are pretty balanced, except when they aren't, which depends a lot on gadgets, which is essentially the loadout that different people can choose. There is, by the way, even more things that you have to adapt to. Those second laps I mentioned, those cross-world tracks, some of them being the biggest highlights in the game for me, also can have frenzies, which are things like everybody having boost items always going, or having super fast drift charge for your boost on that, or having boost rings appear all over the track. It really does embrace the chaos within what, at the heart of the game, is a pretty technical racer that has quite a lot that goes into nailing every single track. But to me, the ultimate genius that comes in with a game like Sonic Racing comes from the gadget system. While in the Mario Kart series, you do have the ability to express yourself through your choices of what your vehicle and your character are, that's really where that customization ends. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds takes this to a further level with the use of gadgets. And the gadgets themselves are very closely tied to progression in the game. You start off only being able to equip 2 gadget slots, but as you keep racing and racing, you will unlock a total of 6 gadget slots that you can have, and these gadgets can have very transformative effects during a race. These gadgets can range from making your drift boost fill up faster, to losing less rings when you take damage, to recovering faster when you take damage, to obtaining more rings through different means, or just straight up stat boosts, or very interesting, obtaining more of a certain type of item. You see, much like coins in Mario Kart, here, the more rings you collect, the faster you go, and you lose them when you get hit, which is another big element of strategy when you're going through a course. But items are also divided into different categories, be they traps that you set on the road, be they speed, be they offensive or defensive. And you can even equip gadgets that make it so you have a higher chance of obtaining a certain type of item when you grab an item box. When you start combining all of these different things, as well as the different types of machines and the different characters that all affect your stats, you can really dial in a playstyle that suits you, and you can even have loadouts set up so that certain tracks that maybe you know are going to benefit from certain things are there and ready to go so that you can switch to them for that specific race. This means that if you find yourself, let's say, in first place very often and then losing your position because you get pelted with items, it might be a really good idea to change your vehicle to one that allows you to recover faster, equip some gadgets that allow you to recover and accelerate faster, and then also some gadgets that make it so you get more defensive items more often, meaning that you'll be able to protect every time somebody tries to attack you. If you find yourself having mastered shortcuts on a track, you'll be able to access a lot of them more often if you use a gadget to get more speed items from those boxes, meaning you'll be able to go through the deceleration zones off track more often. Or maybe you just want to play with a power vehicle and a power character, and you want to boost what you get from knocking people out and knocking them over the track. You can do that as well. This means that there's a lot of experimentation to be had with the gadgets and the different choices of vehicles in the game, leading to that progression of just jumping into one more match and then feeling like, oh, this is happening to me too much, or I'm finding myself in these situations a lot. I'm going to change my loadout in order to take advantage of that, and it's all the more addictive for it. It puts a lot of the balancing on your hands and gives you those options so that you can express yourself better and obtain the results and the playstyle that you want as you keep racing. The more that I play, the higher in the ranks that I've climbed, and the better that my opponents get, the more I appreciate that gadget system and just how much it allows me to have fun and test new things out, including some of the wackier gadgets. There's one that makes you spin whenever you're drifting, and if you spin into people, you kind of knock them out even if you're not a power type vehicle. I don't care if I lose, man. That thing's fun. I like spinning around the corners. What can I say? Now, all of these interesting things would be moot if the game didn't have basically an excellent track list and an excellent feel to its handling and all of its vehicle types, and God does it. Look, it's very rare in a kart racer that I find myself liking every track. If I ever choose one track over another, it's more about my mood than about not liking certain tracks. In this case, there's a lot of very difficult, very technical tracks that can get very chaotic and complicated. Some of them, though, I have learned to love over time, but some of them are just kind of require a lot of locking in. So I'll choose a different one because, you know, I'm not in that mood, but that doesn't mean I don't like them. I actually like them quite a lot. It's just that they're very intense because this game does require you to lock in quite a bit. You enter a Zen state in it, but not the Zen state of just like chilling. It's more of the Zen state you would obtain with a challenging rhythm game, for example, where you're just locked in until your mind is only there, which is good, by the way. I appreciate that. Really, there's only one track, which is the Pumpkin Mansion, that I do not like. I find that one a bit annoying. And I think every other track in the game, I actually really enjoy. I have a great time on them. And on some of the cross worlds, I have a blast. And it's a shame that some of them don't come up very often. I think there's a couple of cross worlds that in like 9 hours of playtime, I think I've seen once, maybe twice, but they're really cool and they stick out in my mind. So that is a really high bar to clear of just how fun these tracks are just at the very core of their track design, just in the way that they have their set piece moments, that they have their transitions, and especially just their overall layout of nailing a series of different turns, a series of different straightaways, some gimmicks here or there, some different opportunities and different paths to take depending on if you want to focus more on boosting in that moment, on getting items to make a play, or on collecting coins so that you can set yourself up for the rest of the race. It's crazy, it's beautiful, it's chaotic, and it is just a ton of fun to play online because it embraces everything that it is fully. And it's impressive that Sega has nailed this down this well, because it feels like a game that is way bigger and way smarter than what you would have expected. But then again, I'm one of the people that's been saying that Sega has been back on it for a while and rooting for them to make that comeback, and especially rooting for them to do something really cool with that forgotten IP that they've had for such a long time. And it's great to see them performing in a way that's not just competitive, but smart and differentiates itself from the competition at the moment, which they benefit greatly from the fact that Mario Kart World is so different from what a lot of people expected. And that doesn't mean Mario Kart World is bad. As I said in my review of that game, I think it's fine and I think it has great potential for the future, but I feel like Mario Kart World is not giving enough of the kart racing feel that a lot of people want, and also it's not enough in the other more interesting direction that Nintendo seems to want to push it, which is basically to me just a different type of SSX game. You know, more tracks that are not lap based and instead are just from a start to finish, more downhill style tracks that they don't have to be downhill, more unique creating your own path through this world type of stuff. But they didn't lean in either direction enough, and that's left a lot of people feeling confused. And meanwhile, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds has committed to a very specific arcade vision of fun for a kart racer, and fundamentally managed to nail it. It's impressive. If you're a big fan of racing games, and especially, I guess, if you're a fan of Sonic, you're gonna like this one. And if you're a fan of kart racers and you don't own a Switch 2, if you're a fan of kart racers and like a lot of you who follow this channel, you're on PC, I mean, it's not like you're gonna be playing Mario Kart World, and I wouldn't recommend that purchase, so congrats. Because if you were looking for something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but newer, and with a bunch of different tweaks, and arguably in many ways better, that's Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. I don't want to say it's better than World, not because I don't think it is. I'm enjoying it way more than World. It's more that I think they're very different games in what they're trying to achieve. And I just think that Sonic Racing Cross Worlds has a much clearer goal and achieves it, where Mario Kart World feels like it's not all that sure, and therefore it also hasn't really achieved it, even if it's shinier and sparklier. And when it comes to things like that wall riding, like that grinding, like those high points of World, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds doesn't reach those, but the overall experience is so much more solid. While we're at it though, there is one more comparison point that could be a little bit painful, and that is the OST. And I'm gonna take the coward's way out, and I'm gonna say that I can't choose between my children. Look, Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart World have some of the best soundtracks in all of gaming. And while Sonic Racing does pay a lot of tribute to the Sega fandom and to a lot of the tracks here, I do think it's a very different flavor. It's much more clubby, high tempo, high energy, just way less zen, and a lot more bring the energy up. You've been listening to a lot of the OST during this video. It's really, really good. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. I've had this game very high on my list, and I have already talked about it when I played in the open network tests, and this final version does not disappoint at all from my perspective, and I strongly recommend Sonic Racing Cross World. Meanwhile, I've been Mug. Thank you so very much for watching, and especially thanks to so many of you for subscribing. Reaching 100,000 subscribers, by the way, has been mind-blowing, and I thank you so much, but that doesn't mean we stop here. Far from it. More and better videos sharing passion, care, attention for the world of video games and everything that it is are coming, and I am delighted to know that you guys, so many of you, put your support and your hopes in getting good content out. I'm hoping to never disappoint. A very extra special thanks to the members of The Wall, be they on Patreon or here on YouTube, for directly supporting everything I do. There's a lot of video games. We're going straight into full video game season, and I'm covering it all. So Thank you so much for watching. Go out there, enjoy some great games, maybe some Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and I'll see you again very soon.